Hello, StarkNet family. Welcome back to the Star Cafe. I'm Nurstar, your personal Star barista. And once again, we are ready to serve you with some very special StarkNet content. So, my fam, thank you so much for being here. We are back after a short break. And in order to start this week on the right foot, today we're having a DeFi-centric session as we'll be speaking about Nostra Finance, a decentralized lending and liquidity management protocol that is building on StarkNet for quite a while. And they recently moved from an alpha version that was running smoothly for almost a year into a fully operational version that was launched a couple of weeks ago. So in order to celebrate also this launch, let's have a chat with their founder and also their head of product. And let's introduce David and Richard from Nostra Finance. Hello, guys. Welcome to the Star Cafe.
Hey, Nostra. Yeah, it's great to be here. It's been a while, but finally we made it, and looking forward to it.
Hello, David.
Hey guys, good to be here. This is David from Nostra. You see we have a couple people already, so excited to be here,
Likewise, David, thanks a lot for coming. And also shout out to all the people listening to us and to the whole Nostra family and an amazing
I have
community.
some audio issues, so let me rejoin.
Okay, I see. In the meanwhile, I would say, it was finally time to have a Star Cafe with, with Nostra. And, this is the first time. And although David once came once for a special episode about a community proposal, but we didn't actually have the time to hear about his background. So today we can make up for that, as we're curious to know how you both joined the Web3 space and how also the idea behind was born. Therefore, maybe Richard, you can start with your own background, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. My name's Richard. I'm head of product at Nostra. My background's basically banking. Worked in quite a few banks in London, some big banks, TradFi, the dark side, and then sort of got involved in crypto in like late 2017 when there was obviously a big sort of like excitement and wave. Just went down the rabbit hole since then, staying close to the space, and then started sort of like thinking, what can we do in this space? What can I do? I'm spending so much time here. And so from like 2021, I would say, I think I was contributing to various DAOs and just getting more involved and more closer. And then here we are a few years later.
Awesome. And what about you, David? I was saying when you disconnected, if even though you came to the Star Cafe early this year for a special episode about the community proposal that you submitted in March, if I remember well, we didn't actually have the time to hear about your background at time. So it would be nice to hear some words about your Web3 journey and how Nostra was born.
Yeah, sure. But I remember we talked a little bit about the community proposal a while ago. That was a interesting time, and it's interesting to see that since we made that proposal, there's been so much developments in the community forum. I remember like that was the first ever proposal that was made on the forum, and there was no activity before then. But if you look at the forum right now, it's basically full of like a lot of discussion. So it's good that we actually kickstarted that, and then now it seems like the community is sort of taking over that. So that's pretty cool. About my background, so before I joined crypto, which was I think in 2019, so quite a while ago actually, like looking back at it. But since I joined, before I joined, I used to be a lawyer, so I was a derivatives and structured finance lawyer in London and in Tokyo. So I worked for the big banks and big corporations, helping them structure their exotic derivatives deals and investments, and that sort of was my sort of like step into DeFi. Like it really helped with my understanding of the entire DeFi Legos, as we call it, and helped sort of conceptualize the first protocol that we were building at the time. And sort of Nostra was born out of the deep bear market at the time. So we've been at it for quite a while, and in fact our money market was the first one that was live. So that sort of is my little journey here. But yeah, excited to be here.
Very well, David, and what a solid background by both of you guys. And it is nice to know that you both worked, at also at banks during, I guess, your when you were younger, and that will be helping a lot. I guess that's helped you a lot in order to structure your your DeFi product, and also on the philosophical side, you must have been very motivated because you must have experienced firsthand the limits of and also the unfairness of TradFi. I don't know if you resonate with these words.
I mean, from my perspective, yeah. I mean, I've always been in banking and seen the financial system from the inside, and the inefficiencies that it has when you're doing reconciliations, and there's on the trading desk you have different breaks, and then there's T+2 settlement for certain trades, and that's sort of inefficient, and banks and financial institutions have to manage their risk, their counterparty risk as well. And so yeah, I definitely, coming from my perspective, I definitely saw the use case and blockchain sort of primitives being the future, and it's exciting to be a part of the growing space and making a change day on day.
Very well. And, going back to the main topic of this Star Cafe, which is obviously the Nostra lending protocol, a couple of weeks ago, a fully operational mainnet version of the Nostra lending protocol was announced, after having given its users the chance to use an alpha version of it for the past 10 months or so. And as we said, the alpha version ran pretty smoothly. And obviously, I would take advantage of this remarkable milestone to have a look back at the early days of the Nostra protocol. So take us on a quick retrospective journey of the past months at Nostra. As also, we would also like to know which were some of the opportunities and the challenges that you and your team spotted during this intense 1.5 year at building, or even more at building at Nostra.
Yeah, I can take that. So when we first launched the initial alpha version, we had, at first stages. So since then, we've seen a lot of improvements in terms of like tooling, and Cairo obviously is a completely new version. It's like a different language at this point. And I think like what we try to do is just to try to showcase that we can build a money market that is not an EVM money market, so it's written in a completely new language, yet it is capable of delivering the service level or having features that go beyond what would be possible on Ethereum. And what we try to do here is just to showcase the UI a little bit and the user experience, which would be somewhat more fluid than what you would be doing on an EVM chain. Been talking about mainnets mainly, where transactions can take 12 seconds or more, depending on whether your transaction gets included in the next block. So what we try to do is just to create a little bit of a different user experience where you don't have these sort of confirmation, pending confirmation, pop-ups, and all this kind of stuff in the top right corner, as is the norm on Ethereum right now, but instead have sort of like a more fluid experience in the UI, where you could have somewhat more of a banking app-like experience. So if you go on your local HSBC website, you could like undo and redo things pretty fast, and you click confirmation. It's like powered by account abstraction. You can get to that point, you can get to that level that sort of competes with a traditional banking app. And in fact, like Nostra is aiming to be at least the money market side of it somewhat competitive with in the future, aiming to be competitive with regular banking as well. So that's what we tried to do. We put a small deposit limit, so $5 limit, and the caps were reached very quickly. And I think at this point, we released the new final version, and then we're nearing at like $1 million TVL, and I think the user numbers are pretty huge. So we can see that there are a lot of people who are interested in trying it out. The numbers are growing pretty quickly. So I think the latest numbers are 40% growth weekly. So there are a bunch of new stuff coming out soon. So I think like that $1 million TVL number is gonna explode pretty soon. And yeah, the community is growing fast. So I think at this point we have like 90,000 people.
Yeah, your community is one of the most vibrant ones, especially in the DeFi sector as well on Starknet. And yeah, let's take advantage of that in order also to send some love to some members of your team that I can see here, like Mijovic, Pujit. We also have Vukashin, Milika, and somebody that I missed will forgive me. For sure, Jakub, if I remember well. Anyway, lots of love to the whole Nostra community, Nostra Finance community, and also to all the listeners that are listening live to this Twitter space. And Richard, would you like to add something on also your personal considerations on this first 1.5 year working at Nostra? I mean, your takes on that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, it's been a journey. Since our launch, it was last December, so it's nearly a year now. When we launched the alpha version of Nostra, and it was the first money market on Starknet, which we was proud to do. And it wasn't easy back then. I mean, I think the tooling and the space was very early for Starknet, and so it took some time to ship that. And yeah, we're super proud that we made it so early. It was very early, and now I guess things are ramping up as I think the community can see in Starknet, which is exciting. And then yeah, we reached our limits quite quickly, as David mentioned, and so we didn't want to lift them up and change them. We wanted to kind of relaunch with the full version, and so we were just waiting for that. But it's really exciting now. We've almost lift the floodgates open, and seeing the usage go up. So now we can sort of move on to our next phases of growth.
Absolutely. So we had a very nice journey into the past of Nostra, but now it's time to jump back into the present moment. And yeah, let's speak a bit about the current mainnet version, the fully operational version of Nostra. And on one end, we already saw a surge of more than 100% in its total value locked during the past week. And on the other hand, this kind of event is said to have marked the beginning of a process that will turn Nostra into a multi-product DeFi factory on Starknet. And seeing that there are a lot of ongoing developments around the issuance of the UNO stablecoin, for example, and also the creation of a decentralized order book exchange. So could you tell us a bit about the first impressions around the mainnet, if you have any additional stats to share about with us? And also, how does this step fit into the long-term vision at Nostra? And obviously, feel free to tell us more about the UNO stablecoin and also about this promising order book DEX that you've been working on.
I can take this. So since we launched the mainnet version, which is the sort of final version of the lending protocol that we built, and we've seen like a lot of growth. And we've seen a lot of growth in terms of number of users, and we've seen primarily a growth of the TVL. I think TVL is up 165% since last week or something like that. So that is growing consistently, and I think it will continue to grow as we release more incentives for people to come and try it out. But what I think is important to mention for like the mainnet version is like the reason why we put it off for so long is that we've been waiting for more oracles to come live to make the protocol safer. There was one reason, which hasn't been solved completely at this point, but we're waiting for Chainlink to sort of come live and help us with securing the protocol even more. And then the other reason is like that we've done this change is that the $5 deposit limit wasn't quite enough to create a usable protocol. So since we remove these deposit limits, we have made the protocol sort of a little more future-proof by instead of having these caps on the supply side, we have caps on we have minimum limits on the borrow side. So in order to make sure that liquidations happen, we kind of changed the whole way that we approach it. So we have moved away from this like come on and try it with like no risk $5 limit to have a protocol that can actually be used. And in fact, we've seen that there are a lot of depositors who put in and supply an asset, and then we see big users who then take all of that and then take it out and then borrow in one big chunk from the people that have supplied. So we have seen these the bigger transactions go live at this point, which is very interesting to see. And then, so we have onboarded, I think, like since last week, just 33,000 new users. So there is a lot of interest, which is amazing. And then Nostra Analytics is also now live, so we can go on the website and see all sorts of statistics as well. And a little bit about the vision, I think I can touch on that. So what we want to do is to provide users with a one-stop shop sort of DeFi experience. So the reason why we're trying to combine all of these use cases is that we want Nostra to be a single application where users can, first of all, lend and borrow, so they can have assumed functions of what a bank would do, and at the same time they can trade using our future order book DEX, and then also mint and use and buy the stablecoin that we're going to release called Uno. So we're trying to combine all of the proven product market fit products that exist in DeFi at this point and create a StarkNet native version of that. And that's sort of the vision that we have. And I think like this is where we're going. So it's like instead of focusing on just one area, we have the capacity to focus on multiple different areas. And I think like we're on the right track to do that.
Awesome. Yeah, I've been giving a look at your analytics dashboard that you can also, for the listeners, that the listeners can find also in the comment section. And I'm seeing some numbers like the current total value locked is at the time of speaking is about $682,000. It as a utilization rate like around 18%. Does that mean the people that deposited have also borrowed something, right?
I think the utilization rate means the percentage of assets that are being borrowed in relation to the total that's being supplied. So if you see the 18% average, that means that people have supplied $100 worth of overall, let's say USDC, and 18 of those have been borrowed. So I think like that's a decent number considering the caps that we have on the borrow side. But I would expect that number to rise as we get more users with more capital instead of the small capital users who have no capital to borrow because they cannot supply enough collateral. And I expect that to change over time.
Well understood. And Richard, I don't know if you want to add something also about the next products of Nostra. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll just build on what sort of David mentioned about the vision. Today we've got like almost like the early days of like the iPhone, where you had an app for everything, and then as you scroll through your iPhone, you just have an app for every little thing, if a camera filter or if it's like a parking ticket app. And I think over time that's consolidated, and I think that's where we're heading for DeFi, and hence why we think that having a one-stop shop makes sense. You don't want ideally you don't want a user to be going from one app to another to do different steps in what they want to do. If you think about their user journey, and that's why we started with like a lending protocol, because we think that's quite one of the core sort of actions and primitives of DeFi and what users want to do. So again, it's just building up that sort of one-stop shop, one place for users to do all the key functions that they wish. And yeah, I mean, I think the 2024 is going to be an exciting year. I think for Starknet DeFi in general, and then also what we have in store on our roadmap. So we call sort of the initial phase like the Genesis phase, and now sort of we've kind of lifted off the caps and launched mainnet. We're now sort of ready for expansion with the DEX and Uno as well. So exciting times ahead. I think 2024 is going to be a big year just for Nostra and Starknet DeFi in general, and we're here for the ride.
Absolutely. Looking forward to the next months in order to see also these new products being rolled down. And turning a bit towards the community side of things, the Nostra Finance community is known to be one of the most vibrant ones on Starknet, and their Godfather team like Swag is one of the most sought one at the conferences. So let's have a point of the situation regarding the different activities that are being brought forward by your community, and what's the role that your community will be playing in the next year as the vision of Nostra continues to unfold.
Yeah, I mean, we have a fantastic community that we originally sort of called La Familia, and there's a bit of snippets from the Godfather and that kind of thing. We love going when we've gone to the Starknet CCs. It's just been a lot of energy. We've got a poker kind of game, card game, where people get excited. They have to trade cards and get the best hand. And we've had some really good sort of excitement for that. And that's also then fed into our regular poker tournaments that we have. That's run by the community mods for others to just participate in. So the community is really important to us. I think that's a key sort of cornerstone for Web3 is the community, and sort of keeping it engaging, fun place to be, and etc. And we recently had a Star quest gone pretty well. It's even issue. But it went well. There's a lot of people interested in quests for sure. And then also we had a sort of a Galaxy campaign for early adopters, just as like a token of appreciation. But yeah, and there's lots of other sort of things we have in store in the next coming weeks, which we can't let out the box just yet. But again, it's just these little exciting campaigns to keep everybody engaged and present and say thank you. And yeah, we're looking forward to rolling them out even more.
Very well. And as we transition towards the final part of this Star Cafe, I wanted to invite our audience to write their own questions on the comment section, and I will be glad to ask some of them to Dev and to Richard. And regarding my side, my last question is about our recent announcement regarding the DeFi committee. That was announced last week, and Richard from Nostra is going to be one of its members. So Nostra is going to be in the DeFi is going to be represented in the DeFi committee. And we could also say that, as we were saying earlier in the episode, We could also say that this move was also inspired by, by some proposals that were submitted in the Starknet community forum that were aimed at boosting growth in DeFi. And David was the first one to spark this kind of debate in the forum. So what do you think of DeFi on Starknet in general, of its potential and of the current challenges that DeFi protocols are currently facing on the scene? And last but not least, what kind of measures and initiatives should the DeFi committee take during the early stage of its history, of its activity?
Yeah. So first of all, yeah, super happy to be on the DeFi committee. I think it's a good group of people with a balanced view and a vested interest in the whole Starknet ecosystem to make the best of Starknet DeFi or DeFi on Starknet. And yeah, it's right. There was earlier on in the year. David could talk to this more, but we posted in the open forum for Starknet just about how thoughts on growing DeFi and the initiatives that we can do, just to generate the conversation, spark the conversation and the energy, which I think, as David mentioned earlier, we definitely did. There's a lot of engagement in that post, and again, it led to the Starknet receiving that Starknet Foundation receiving that information and the community feedback, and then doing something about it. So really positive to see, and we're all aligned in that regard. I think DeFi is seen as like a core sort of application of blockchain technology, and it's a highly important category if you look at any chain. And so I think Starknet acknowledges that they see the importance, and hence why the committee's spun up. And our goal is to make sure that Starknet on DeFi or DeFi on Starknet is attracting as many users as possible, and not just existing crypto Web3 users, but also outside of that. I think I've done a sort of talk months ago at one of the Starknet CCs just about growing Starknet DeFi to the next 1 billion users. Obviously, it's a big number. It's more of a sort of a headline number, but again, with all the sort of the promises of scalability, etc., which I think we need to get to, Starknet could be one of those forerunners for mass adoption. And then why we built Nostra on Starknet, because we think it's the right grounds to do so. So yeah, from the committee perspective, we got a lot of work to do. I think it's still early on Starknet. There's still sort of a lot more dApps to onboard, a lot more activity. But our sort of main goal is to build a sort of TVL swap activity, or swap volume, for example, and making sure that we're aligning sort of long-term success of Starknet DeFi. We don't really, we want to avoid sort of mercenary capital or short-term sort of users. We want to make sure it's sustainable for the next 10, 50, 100 years. And so we're taking a very balanced approach, and learning from what we've seen in the past. And there should be some exciting things coming next year for sure.
Awesome. There's definitely a lot of work to do for you and the rest of the committee in order to boost DeFi on Starknet, and I'm sure you will be doing a great job. So congratulations once again for the role. And actually, I'm sure that David would like to add something on on this matter, on also on his views regarding DeFi on Starknet in general, and so on.
Yeah, one thing that I would add here is, if you look at the current dApps that use most of the gas on Ethereum, you see that it's mostly DeFi. So it's almost only DeFi. There was some NFT activity back in the day, but and from a network's perspective, if you want to generate fees, if you want to have more users, then you have to realize that a lot of that comes from either speculative users who are trading on decentralized exchanges, or from people who are, using more advanced DeFi applications and sending transactions. So from a network's perspective, and I'm talking from, talking about the goals of the StartNet Foundation, one of their primary goals is this is why the reason why the DeFi committee was set up is to encourage users to move from L1s, namely Ethereum, where they spend a lot of money on fees, and then trying to move over to StartNet. Obviously, this committee has a huge role to fill because StarkNet, unlike other networks, are not EVM compatible, so it doesn't allow for all of these existing big dApps to sort of pour through and have immediate adoption. So the committee has to take a little bit of a more aggressive role in trying to get more users, which they have been doing a good job at. So hopefully we can keep that going, keep the momentum up, and then in the next couple of months we can have more users that just naturally come to take part in StartNet DeFi instead of being priced out of Ethereum, as we have seen over the last couple of weeks with the gas fees. So yeah, that's where I wanted to end that. And then at Nostra, obviously, we're at the forefront of that. So we're betting big on StartNet DeFi, and I think if StartNet DeFi wins, then Nostra will definitely win. So I'll leave it at that.
That's great. And obviously, first of all, I wish you and all of your team all the best in order to achieve all these goals. We have some few questions. One like from the first Normad, which is like in Nostra documentation, it is stated that there is an unsecured loan feature, or under collateralized maybe means, which is different than traditional DeFi loans. So would that, I'm like structuring the question, would that require collateral to be posted? I mean, how will that work? What's the procedure? This is the question.
I think everything on Nostra is over collateralized. So, if you lend, say $100, you can't borrow more than $100. So I'm not sure where the under collateralized is mentioned, but we'll take a look. I don't think maybe it's in a different context. But yeah, I mean, that's a core. It's a good point. I mean, within DeFi, we are sort of at the we do have a limitation in that respect, right? Like in the real world, you can take out credit, you can get a loan, and it's under collateralized. It's collateralized by your name. It's collateralized by your credit score. But there's no such thing in DeFi today as such, and so therefore, any loan to make sure that the protocol is safe, any loan or any borrowing of any sort needs to be over collateralized by a certain amount, a certain ratio, to ensure that there's enough liquidity in there for there to be a liquidation if it goes underwater or below the ratio. So yeah, for us, everything's over collateralized. That's the safest way today. Hopefully in the future that changes, as we get a bit more connected with our own credit reports maybe, or there's more on-chain identity. So yeah, I will look forward to that space developing as well.
Fair enough, Richard. There's also like 4 questions on a question from Joseph, but actually we answered all of these during the episode. It was like, what's your stand on CeFi and DeFi? We kind of get that. Do you think DeFi has potential to take the main stage and lead the space? We just mentioned it. And what is the major advantage DeFi has over CeFi? We also mentioned it. And maybe we could answer the last one, which is, what do you hope to have achieved in 5 years from now with Nostra Finance?
I mean, David, do you want to take it?
Yeah, sure. It's hard to say, honestly. I think like what we are we're a very good position in sort of surviving any sort of future bear market or anything like that. So I think we are well positioned to wait and to be consistently the top 1 application on StartNet, which is what we're aiming to do. and then see how the network can scale to a point where we can be a competitor to traditional banking applications. So think about your, Revolut app on your phone, for which there is a long way to go in terms of security of the network, the L2 state rollup security, and then also just in general, like this network speed is probably and finality is one of the biggest hurdles and costs as well. But once those issues are solved, which is only a matter of time, and I think for ZK rollups, it's a matter of hardware getting better and faster. Once that happens, I think we're in the front line to start competing with traditional financial applications, which is what the end goal is here. So that's the vision, and I think combined all of these use cases that Nostra aims to address, we're really going for mass adoption here over the next 5 years.
Yeah, the future looks bright on Starknet DeFi in general, and above all also on Nostra Finance. And the last quick question by Big Sent, that first of all congratulates you on the product. Like, do you have any Telegram group?
No, I mean the main sort of community is in Discord. That's where you can find La Familia and all the crew. So I'd probably just recommend joining there. It's very lively.
Very good. So guys, it's now time to close this Star Cafe. I had an amazing time. I think we all learned a lot from this episode, and as I said, I wish Nostra all the best in the future, and also to Richard and David. And also like thanks a lot to all the listeners. And make sure to follow us on Twitter, and also to have a look at our YouTube channel, where you will be finding all the episodes from the Star Cafe over there as well. And you will also find the recording of this one being posted on YouTube within a week. And having said that, thanks a lot once again to our guests. Thanks a lot, David. Thanks a lot, Richard, for coming. It's been an amazing episode.
Thanks very much for hosting. Cheers.
Thanks, Nasa. Take care.
Thanks a lot, folks. So it's now time to close. Remember to share the Starknet vibe, and see you next time. Bye, guys. Take care. Thanks a lot for coming. See you.